Clean version.
Monkeyboy's YouTube channel is the greatest YouTube channel. Stands independently, dependently, intersubjectively, interdependently, all the above. I'm talking from the depths of my soul, so subscribe to his YouTube and Patreon.
Yeah, so we're done here.
I think that's called the
Wait,
stone
wait, wait,
Friction's
modality.
coming up. Yeah, we got the goat. I heard you're talking with Adelstein this Thursday.
Hello, Detroyer?
Yo, what's up?
Hey, it's Detroit.
Well, you can't end the live now.
Yeah, no, I can't.
Thank you,
I'm here to
Detroyer.
run my evidence for God.
All right, go ahead.
So everything that begins to exist has a cause.
Okay.
Okay, we'll
The
grant
universe
that.
began to exist, obviously.
Okay.
And so the universe has a
Okay.
cause, and that cause is gone.
Oh, can we go a little deeper into that last one?
I think that's
like
valid,
last
too.
word.
No, that last one just follows by self-evident truth.
Oh,
By
Yes.
the inference rule of self-evidence.
what?
I heard
Why
you're
hasn't
gonna get
anyone else done that?
Amdir is saying you're gonna get curb stomped by Adelstein. What's your thoughts on that comment?
Yeah, look, that's not correct.
Wait,
did
what if, we have,
anyone
wait,
else
what
do?
if we have Detroyer talk to this guy?
Why would we do that? to
Why
Detroit?
would we do that? to
Come
him?
on.
I mean,
I
we
thought-
could
I thought you
try.
liked Detroit.
All right, go ahead. Try.
Hey, why'd you kick me off?
attempt.
Well, Monkeyboy was
No.
frustrated with you, so don't take it personally.
He was
No, actually,
checking out
it
the
was Daisy
function.
who kicked.
I did not kick you off.
He was verifying that the kick button was designed by God.
Oh, Friction
Hey, you
or
can't
Detroit.
kick me
You
off
know,
every time you're
I'm a
losing.
bad
But
idea.
anyway,
Linford.
so
up here,
Detroyer,
hopefully.
this guy was saying the reason to think God exists is that everything has a function because it works.
Everything has a function.
Yeah, everything has a purpose. Therefore, God
What's
exists.
the sense of function or purpose at play here?
It's like a conjunction.
Maybe it's best he just like starts from scratch with this guy. To be honest.
Maybe it's
Yeah,
best
no, but
that
look,
we don't.
Hey, but look, I'm talking more specifically
Okay.
about the universe. I'm talking about the sun, the moon, the oceans, your body. That's what I'm talking about. And then you guys go off into something that makes absolutely no sense.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah, everything in the natural world.
Okay, presumably we agree on the at least roughly.
this
on the
guy
details
right
about
here
the
doesn't
solar
even have a
system and our
driver's
bodies
license.
and Earth history. You think that some God made it, and I don't. Like, where are you getting some inference from that?
What?
Look, you brought up our bodies and the solar system and stuff about
Yes.
Earth. Like, we
Right.
both agree about those details. Why do you think those things were created by God?
Well, because there's no other logical explanation that makes sense.
What? What do you mean?
Exactly what I said. There's no other logical explanation that makes sense.
Yeah, we have no idea
Logical
why the tides go in or out.
explanation
We don't know.
Can't explain that.
Okay, what's your
How
theory?
about, how about this? Like a few thousand
What
years
exactly?
ago,
I
we
mean, I
had.
have- I was going
How
to
about
say, I
this,
have
like-
views about like Earth and life history and cosmological history. Like, I don't have
Yeah,
ultimate
all that's
answers
been
to everything,
debunked.
What's been
No, all
debunked?
that's there's a bunch of theories, but there's nothing solid.
Wait, what are you saying is being debunked? Like stuff about Earth and life history, cosmology,
Yeah, like the Bang Theory and you know.
Bang Theory.
Can you explain the Big Bang Theory?
No, he said the Bang Theory, but
Can you explain the Bang Theory?
That's what I meant. The Bang Theory. That's what I do to your girlfriend. But the, no,
Most
the
people
big,
doesn't know about
Big
the Bang
Theory.
Theory.
Yeah. Okay. I don't think this guy knows about the Bang Theory either. If he's talking about banging anyone's girl.
Okay, wait. So, can you explain the Big Bang Theory? What do you take it to be?
Well, from my understanding, is that something just happened.
Already
And
wrong.
that
is
is
it? That is
already
in the
wrong.
universe, and that we all
Do you
got
think-
examples.
technical
So you think
terminology.
if you open up like a science textbook on like cosmology, it'll say Big Bang Theory definition. Something just happened.
yes.
Hey, Davey, are we doing the Big Bang Theory or the Bang Theory?
We're doing the Big Bang Theory.
I prefer the
Big
Bang,
Bang Theory.
You know.
Well, look, I don't know it. I don't
No
know
way.
the theory, but
Okay, now
I know it doesn't make
Detroyer,
sense.
Detroyer, explain the Big Bang to him.
Yeah.
So, the universe was in a hot, dense state like 14 billion years ago. Expansion started. Wait. never mind.
Do you want a background music?
I mean, yeah, that is just basically the Big Bang Theory. The universe was in
Yeah,
a hot dense
roughly.
state and it began to expand.
Right.
Doesn't
It make sense.
doesn't comment on where the universe came from or anything like that. It's just about the expansion of the universe.
Yeah, I mean, there could have been stuff before that or something that caused it. It doesn't say one way or the other, the Big Bang Theory doesn't. say
Yeah,
one way or
but
the other.
that would suggest that everything that's in place, that's perfectly in place, by the way, would just happen by chance. Yeah, the sun. If it's further from the Earth, everything would freeze. If it's closer, it would burn it. Right? That's been proven. Right? The moon. The
Well,
function,
within some
everything
margin of
is
error, yeah. Although the margin is more than you'd expect, but what's the relevance? You know, there's other planets.
Well,
other
Detroit,
stars.
wouldn't it be better evidence for God if we found ourselves existing on a planet that couldn't support life, yet somehow we were miraculously alive? I always thought that would be better
that'd
evidence.
be pretty good.
Yeah. Like, I mean, where the hell else are we gonna live?
Like, at least that sort of explanation, it's very hard to see how we're still there, you know.
Jesus is keeping us there.
He just holds us down.
Yeah, I mean, at least it's more rationally compelling to think something like that. Not to say that it is.
Oh, you know what's crazy is you guys sit here, you guys
Hey, you're with us,
throw
buddy.
big words around
Try to avoid
and,
We're all in this
wait, and you talk in circles, and you guys ignore like all the evidence, everything that's right in front of you. And you go get your driver's
But I don't know,
license
but you're
first.
saying like
Try to act like you know.
I don't know,
what
you're
the
saying
driver's
like
license.
I don't know, you're saying like things have been debunked, but you don't even know what they are. Seems pretty
I do.
embarrassing, man.
No,
You don't
no,
know
I
what the
do,
big
I
you
do.
didn't describe it at all. You didn't properly describe the Big Bang Theory. You didn't know what it was.
That's because I don't care to know it because it's ridiculous. I've heard it before, and I chose not to remember it because it's stupid.
So
I
you
have
think
another
it's like
guess.
a
Want to
you
just
think
swap them and
yeah, right after this. But I'm just curious. You think it's rational to deny something that the vast majority of scientists accept, and you don't even know what it is?
Wait, do you think
Well,
it's
that's not
rational to
even
ask
the
the vast
case
majority of
anymore.
theologians accept?
That's
and
no
you don't
longer
know?
true.
Yeah, the vast majority
That's no
of
longer true.
theist
No,
philosophers.
I said theologians.
That's not the case anymore. You guys are talking about like
What's not the case?
old news.
Okay. Wait, was he going to say it's not the case that the vast majority
I
of
didn't
scientists...
drop him. Who dropped? Did he disconnect?
I don't know.
That was Jesus.
I didn't say Ahmad dropped him, so
The
it
Lord
might have been
struck him down.
Jesus.
Okay,
Yep.
Sticky Bandits, are you a theist?
Yes, I am. Yeah, thank you. Hi, guys. How are you?
I got a good feeling
Hallelujah.
about this guy.
Hey, what's up?
He's got
Also,
an
I'm
energy
only gonna be
about
here
him.
for like 15 more minutes max. So, well, yeah. What's your best evidence for the existence of God, Sticky?
So I think the idea of like best argument for existence of God is kind of a silly question. But for me personally, it would be like arguments
Your
from
best.
contingency.
Your best.
Yeah, my best. I don't think I have my best. I just have the one that convinces me the most. And it would probably
Not the one you feel the most confident in.
Yeah, I would argue that the one I feel the most confident in is arguments from contingency, and there are many different kinds. But a really basic argument from contingency, I think, does the job. And then I would even go as far to extend that to the Kalam, although I realize there's problems with the Kalam. So I hold back on the Kalam, and I mostly use the argument from contingency.
Okay, well, do you want to give a particular contingency argument?
Well, yeah, sure. Everything's contingent. I think there needs to be a necessary being. This necessary being.
That's the conclusion.
So not everything is contingent.
Yeah. So I would argue everything's contingent, and therefore it needs some sort of necessity. With that being said, I think this necessity has certain attributes. I think these attributes are what we would call God.
But I mean, how do you get to that conclusion? Like, what kind of PSR do you accept, etc.?
Well, I think that the so I think the infinite regress of contingencies is a problem. So I think you need something necessary.
In what way is it a problem?
Oh, because if you have an infinite regress of contingencies, it would take an infinite amount of contingencies to reach this moment, which would make this moment impossible.
Whoa, how does that happen?
Impossible.
That does not
Logically impossible.
Well, how long does it take to reach an infinite series?
Well, hold on. Are you saying it's logically impossible? We reach the present.
No, not logically impossible.
In what way?
No, what
is it
modality?
impossible?
What I'm saying is it's most likely impossible.
Wait, what?
It's an
Tell
it's
me
an-
most likely.
it's an
We're
ab-
asking
it's
the sense
it's an
of
ab- it's an
impossibility.
abductive
Is
argument.
it physically impossible? Metaphysically?
Well, I would argue that it's physically impossible to reach the end of an infinite series.
So
Yeah.
it's inconsistent with a given law of physics, or
Well, I would just
Wait,
argue
when you
that
say reach
it's
reach the
impossible
end.
to
wait. When you say reach the end of an infinite series, do you mean to say to reach the final member of a series who has no final member?
Well, you can have an infinite series that has a final number.
No. But is that what you're saying?
What I'm saying is that it would take
Yeah,
it.
'cause
I
I'd
feel
be
like that's
mistaken.
what he's imagining when he says that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
look,
yeah.
you realize we're talking about reaching
I'm
the
trying
end
to- I'm
of a
trying to
series
speak.
that doesn't have a beginning.
Yeah. So if it took an infinite amount of contingencies to reach this moment, it would be impossible to reach this moment.
Wait, why?
Yeah, but why?
Because it would take an infinite amount
How
of...
much time have you had?
Yeah, so if
You guys keep cutting me off in the middle of my sentence, guys. Come on, chill out.
Wait,
I know you're all tigers, but like, let's relax. It would take an infinite amount of contingencies to reach this contingent moment. Therefore, it would take an infinite amount of time. Therefore, we would never reach this moment.
How does the conclusion
There's a
follow
little
from the last part?
leap in logic there.
It takes an
Where's the
infinite
leap
amount
in
of time, therefore.
So
how do
where's
you
the
get
leap in logic?
Going from there would take an infinite amount of time to reach this moment to we would not reach this moment.
Yeah. Well, why is that a problem?
Yeah, so
Oh, just-
I
it's just
like
the
the
It
way
would not take an infinite amount of
I
time.
like-
to
doesn't
reach this moment?
follow.
I mean, I like the way Amdir puts it of like, so the temporal finitist, you ask them how long does it take to reach the present, and they'll say it takes n amount of time, where n is a finite number. And you ask the temporal infinitist how long it takes, and they'll say it takes n amount of time, where n is not a finite number. What's the reason to think that there's like a relevant asymmetry?
Well,
that
because I
The second
believe
answer is like impossible somehow.
Well, yeah, obviously, it would take an infinite amount of time to reach a certain moment if there was an infinite amount of time previous to that moment.
Yeah, but
Which
what's the
time have you
problem?
had?
Why would that mean you'd never reach it?
Because it would take an infinite amount of time, and you can't reach an infinite.
Sticky,
You just
how much time have you
repeating
had?
yourself.
How much time have you had? If the universe is past infinite to get to today, how much time have you
Well,
had?
I'm 37 years old, so it took 37 years for me to get to this moment.
That's not okay.
You're being obtuse, intentionally so.
Wait, no, I'm sorry. I thought that's what you asked. I apologize.
How much time to get to now in a past infinite universe? How much
Well, I
time
don't
would it
believe
take?
there's a past infinite universe.
Yeah, we
believe-
understand that. We
Supposing there
understand
was
that.
one.
How much time would it take?
I would never reach this moment.
How
It
much
would
time
take-
would it take? It would take
it
an
would take
infinite
an
amount of time, right?
It would take an infinite amount.
Yeah, and how much time have you had?
How much? Say that again.
How much time have we had?
If you believe the universe is infinite, then an infinite amount of time.
There you
Right,
go.
so it's like if it takes 30 seconds and we've had 30 seconds, then we'd have reached it.
Yeah, because that's a solid amount of time. An infinite isn't a solid amount of time; it's an infinite. So there's no way to reach.
No, but
it.
the amount of time we've had is the same amount of time as it would take.
You realize that an infinite is different than 30 seconds, right? Or like 30 minutes, or like
Right,
30.
but is it true that it's the same amount?
No, these are different amounts. I'm not sure.
Right, so the amount of time we've had, the amount of moments that have transpired, if we put that
Yeah.
into a set, the cardinality of that set would be the same as the cardinality of the set of moments that it would take to reach the present.
But if it was an infinite set, it would take an infinite time, which means you would never reach it.
But how much time have you
It
had?
means you would never reach it. Why
Wait,
would
where do you
never
get
reach
that?
it? There's some-
You can't reach an infinite. That's why.
By reach an infinite,
I'm worried that there's like something weird going on here when we talk about, oh, you can't reach an infinite, that what we have in mind is you can't, count all the numbers, like all the natural numbers, and get to the end of them or something.
Yeah, that's what I said to begin with. I feel like he's imagining
Well, I'm imagining
the opposite thing, which is reaching the end of a series with no end.
difference. If you're saying that there's an infinite time regress, right? That means there's an infinite amount of time below us to reach this moment, which means we would never reach this moment, which means that's impossible. It must have started somewhere.
So you say again, you make that inference, which
It's that
everyone
last
else
step.
projects.
I want to hear what Amdir has to say since he just came up.
Well, let Detroyer talk to him.
All right.
Well, look, I mean, if I think, and it's not incoherent, that there's an infinite past. There was a day yesterday, there was a day before that, and for any natural number n, there was a day n days ago, right? How many days have transpired? Well, as many as there are natural numbers, which is ultimately infinitely many, right? That's all consistent so far.
Which means it
how
would
many
take
days-
an infinite amount of time to reach this moment, which means we would never reach this moment.
No, in the sense it would take an infinite amount of time, in the sense that infinitely many days have transpired, right? That's true on the view.
It's an infinite amount of time to reach this moment, which means that's impossible.
You're just describing something true on the model, right? That it would take infinitely many days to reach the present, and saying that's impossible. That's the model. What's impossible? about the
Well,
model?
I'm saying it's impossible for us to reach this moment if it took an infinite amount of time to reach this moment. Because
I mean,
Again, you're
maybe
just-
maybe you
you're
could
just,
think
again,
of it like
repeating something about the
if
view
it
and
takes
saying that's
if it,
impossible. I don't
maybe
know how to
something
respond
like
to that.
if it takes n amount of days to reach t and n amount of days have transpired, then we'll be at t, right?
no, but you're claiming.
So if it takes
there's
aleph
an
null many days to reach the present
you're
and
claiming-
aleph null many days have transpired,
if you're claiming that there was an infinite amount of days prior to this moment, that means it would take an infinity to reach this moment, which is impossible. I can't
You're
believe
just
it.
saying
So
something
the-
true about the
the
view
part-
and then saying it's impossible with no reason. I don't like.
How do you? How,
Here's
well, how do you reach
here's what we
No, tell me-
here's
tell-
here's
tell
what
me
we're
when you-
asking here's
Well,
what we're
just tell me
asking
when you
for.
reach infinite. Tell
What's
me,
well, hold on a
let's
second.
say B.
Come on.
Calm down, Tiger.
So what we're looking for is a reason to think that if, to listen closely to the conditional, if there's an infinite amount of time before the present day, if we had to traverse an infinite amount of time to get to the present day, then we would never get to the present day. That's what we're looking for you to provide an argument for. There's some sort of
Well,
reason to accept that.
That's my claim. So I think
that is the claim.
Yeah, support your claim.
The conditional is true.
Yeah, well, I don't believe that. I don't believe that there's an infinite amount of time.
No, but it's a conditional. It's a if-then statement. So like,
I think it's impossible to reach this moment given an infinite regress in time.
no, but it's
I think
like
the conditional.
I believe the only reason we're here is because there was a start to time.
no, wait. But
You're
you
just
could,
reasserting
but
the
you could think
conditional.
like if there's a married bachelor, then there's at least one true contradiction, right? That doesn't mean you have to affirm there are married bachelors to agree with that conditional. Do you understand?
No, I don't understand.
Okay, so the conditional, if there exists a married bachelor, then there's at least one
That's a
true contradiction. Yeah. Then there is at least one true contradiction. Do you agree with that conditional?
Well, there wouldn't be a married bachelor, yes.
Oh my
No,
god.
no. If there is at least one married bachelor, then there
But
is
that
at least
doesn't
one true
exist.
contradiction.
Thanks for the goose.
Do you not understand what a conditional is?
Maybe I don't.
If X, then Y. That's what a
So like,
conditional
I know, but you're
if I
just
got 5 stars on my performance review, then I would get a raise at work, right?
No. What
Like
you're saying is, if there is a married bachelor, it would refute the idea of bachelors. Is that what you're saying?
No. If I'll just repeat the conditional. If at least one married bachelor exists, then at least one true contradiction exists.
Yeah. I agree.
Okay,
with
but you don't have to affirm that married bachelors exist to agree with that conditional, right?
Yeah. No, I'm with you.
So in the same way, Amdir's conditional was, and repeat it, Amdir.
If there's an infinite number of days prior to the present day, then it's impossible to reach the present day.
Yeah, I agree with that.
But he wants you to
that's your claim.
support that
And-
claim.
Right, that's what I want. I want a reason why we would accept that conditional.
Oh yeah, sure. So I mean, it's to me it's self-evident, but I'll give it in a.
It's not self-evident to mathematicians.
It's hard for me to like say it in any more simplistic manner. Essentially, if it took an infinity to reach this moment, we would never reach this moment.
That's just the conditional he's asking you to support.
Well, therefore, it didn't.
You literally repeated the conditional he's asking you to defend.
Yeah. Why don't you just talk to me like a human being? If it took an infinite amount of time to reach this moment, but we're here in this moment, then it didn't take an infinite amount of time.
That's because you're assuming you began at some point.
Well,
I'd like it if we could get. I'd like it if there's only one way we're going to progress in this conversation, and that's if you give some reason to accept the conditional. That's not just repeating the claim.
So infinite points take an infinite amount of time. Therefore, you can never achieve them. That's my okay. There's
that last goddamn part again.
That's just a restatement of the claim. I mean, no, that's why we're asking you to support it.
Why? What's wrong with that argument? If infinite points
Because it's
don't
not an
take an
argument.
infinite amount of time. But
Well,
can
the-
you give me an argument against it?
Okay,
The
but
problem with the-
on the
the
infinite
problem with
we've
the-
had an infinite amount of time.
The problem with this conditional is that every finitist I've talked to has asserted it. None have given me a reason to accept it. I suspect none of you have a reason to accept it.
Well, it's so.
But the thing with the self-evident thing is, I mean,
directly address what I'm saying. If I exist in this moment and it took an infinity of time for me to get to this moment, I could never achieve this moment.
Why do you
is
say that?
wrong?
That's what I'm asking you to support.
Directly
That's what we're asking you to support. Why would we accept that?
Support is that it would take an infinite amount of time.
But on the model, you've
All
had
right.
an infinite amount of time.
This,
So tell me
I
why
mean,
that's
why
wrong,
this
or
guy's
why you
this
think
guy's
it's
like
right.
kind of just an idiot. I don't know why we're even wasting our
Well,
time.
can you tell me why that's
Yeah,
wrong, or
because on the
The model's
past
consistent.
infinite model, you have had an infinite amount of time, which is exactly as much time as you need to get here.
So imagine there's
So how long would it take to get here?
Oh my
An
God.
infinite amount of time, and that's the amount of time we've had to get here.
And is it possible to achieve an infinite?
It's like, okay, like let's say
Well, no, that's a yes or no.
by
I
achieving
don't see
by
any
achieving
reason.
infinite, you mean
Infinite, yes or no?
by
If
achieving
by an
infinite.
if,
Can
yeah.
you just say
Wait,
yes or
hold-
no? Guys,
yes,
asking you to clarify
yeah,
the question.
chill.
Yes. you
I'm
can?
sure that I understand the question, but
Can you achieve an infinite?
I don't think you've given a reason to think
You
that you
achieve an
can't.
infinite.
So
Can you
by
achieve
my
an
lights,
infinite?
by my lights, it seems like you can. So
Can
until you give me
achieve-
some reason.
so
He just
is
said
the
yes.
answer yes. You
All right.
can
I mean,
achieve
he's
it?
like, I think this guy's like stupid.
I
or something.
honestly
I don't know what the
think
explanation
you
is
understand
here.
the problem.
Let me try this.
Can you
Okay, so
achieve an
let's
infinite?
let's say
Wait,
for me-
no, it's a yes or
first
no,
of
guys,
all, he
guys,
said
guys,
yes. So I don't know why
guys,
you're still
guys.
asking. He said yes.
I'm gonna keep asking. So just tell me.
He
can
said
you achieve
yes.
an infinite?
Yes, he said yes.
Okay, how do you
Okay.
achieve an infinite? And how do you know when you do?
I just said that the reason why I believe you can is because none of the finitists it seems initially consistent and prima facie plausible, and no finitist has given me any reason to think it's not possible. That's why.
How do you
That's
know
why I believe
when
that.
you achieve an infinite? How do
I
you
mean,
know
that's an
that?
epistemic question. That's not showing that it's impossible.
I just want evidence of achieving an infinite.
You're trying to
Come on,
burden shift,
guys.
is what you're trying to do.
No. You claimed that you can achieve an infinite.
Look,
I
we're
want
not
evidence
disputing
of
that there is
when you
an
achieve
actual infinite. Look, all we're trying to show is that there's not this logical tension that you're charging an infinite regress with there being. No one here is or at least attempting to defend the view there is an actual infinite. So when you ask questions like, well, how do we know there's an infinite? No one here is making the claim that
No,
there
all-
is an infinite, to which
Well,
you can
actually,
ask
so-
that.
Wait.
somebody did
All
make that
all
claim.
Amdir has said was he doesn't see any problem with the view.
Well, no.
That doesn't
So
mean
he
he's
did
an
claim
infinite.
that. So wait. So my question was, can you achieve an infinite? He said yes.
Look,
You
let's
can.
just
I said,
try and
how do
end
you
it
know
with this.
when you've achieved an
Look,
infinite?
do you have?
And I
Look,
want
can
the
you
evidence
hold
of how
on?
Wait,
you
monkey boy,
achieve-
monkey
Yeah,
boy,
but-
let me
but-
wait, monkey
I mean,
boy, let me
this is
monkey boy. Hold on,
this
let me.
is all just awfully confused. I mean, someone doesn't need to know how to demarcate, like, or be in an epistemic position to know whether an infinite has been traversed to say that it's possible for an infinite to be traversed. I don't know what the even possible relevance to that could be.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
mean
and beyond
that's
that, you
that's
could even
obviously
just suppose
true.
that somebody with perfect memory has always been counting down the naturals, or and
Well, you claimed
when they
that
counted
you
number, they'll
said
know
that
that they've counted infinitely
You
many.
told me
Anyway.
that you know the evidence of when you've achieved this infinite, and I asked you to give
didn't
me
say that.
evidence of this achieved infinite. I want that evidence.
Well, first of all, he didn't say that, so I'm not sure who you're attributing that to. But
No, he definitely did. I said, can you achieve an infinite? He said yes. And then I said, can you prove that? He said yes. And then I said, what's the evidence? He hasn't responded.
Picky, you've been in this community so long. How are you still so stupid, huh? How are you still so stupid?
Wait, you can't answer that question?
Okay, let me.
No,
let
wait,
me
wait,
try-
no,
We've
Okay, I feel like this is like the last ditch. Okay, let me try an analogy. Okay, so let's say in order to let you into my house, you have to have some amount of eggs in your basket. Okay, so like let's say you need 30 eggs. So okay, if you have less than 30 eggs, I'm not going to let you in my house. Then let's say you need an infinite amount of eggs. Let's say I say okay, you have to have an infinite amount of eggs in your basket. Okay, am I going to let you into my house if you have an infinite amount of eggs in your basket?
No, because it's impossible to achieve an infinite.
Okay.
All right, I give up.
Look, I
Okay,
think this
So
scenario
that
is
the evidence
possible because it's
for
consistent.
his argumentation for how we achieve an infinite. Because he claimed that.
You know that
But
there's a
that's-
difference between saying we can achieve an infinite and we've achieved an infinite. No, you're asking me for evidence that we've achieved an infinite, but the question I answered of yours was, can we achieve an infinite? I said
Yeah,
yes to
and
that. I
what
didn't
would be
say
the
yes to
evidence
we've
of it?
achieved an infinite.
And what would be
Did-
the evidence of
Sorry,
it?
what? Can you repeat back to me what I just said to you?
Yeah. I want to know what would be the evidence of the achieved.
Can you repeat back to me what I just said to you?
The same damn question for like 30 times.
Can you repeat back to me
No,
what
I'm
I
not
just
gonna.
said
You
to
haven't
you?
answered my fucking question.
No, the relevant question would be, what's the evidence that we can achieve an infinite?
He's done. He's done.
Yeah, Amdir, kidding.
And then
Dude,
I would
he's
try
up.
that.